This is the Seven Figure Standard Podcast, hosted by Arash and Mykie Stiller, with mindset and strategies to help you break through and create personal freedom.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Seven Figure Standard Podcast. I'm Mykie Stiller, joined by my co-host, Arash. And today we are going to get into a really interesting topic. You know, from a very young age, we are taught and programmed to rely on our five senses, what we can reach out and touch or see in front of us, what we can hear, taste, smell. And that's how we grow up and what we rely on. And it serves us well in a lot of ways, but when we want to create new and different results, better results, certainly, it hinders us. So we've all heard the line, thoughts become things. And if we're constantly thinking about the circumstances that we're in or the obstacles right in front of us, then it's really difficult to create new, different, and certainly better results. And to do that, you've really got to rely on your higher faculties and think from the inside out. So before I go any further, Raj, I want to get your thoughts on this because I'm sure you have a lot of them.
Yeah, this is such an important topic. I could tell you out of anything that I implemented that took me from failing to succeeding, it was this of not letting the outside control my thinking, my actions, my self-esteem, what I was willing to do and not willing to do. This was the game changer.
You know, we've all had a circumstance come up, or we get a message or something happens and we get that sudden sinking feeling in our body. It's almost like a physical response to something happening. But how do we get control of our emotions, control of our thoughts, so that we are deciding what our feelings are, what will or will not affect us, so that anything coming at us doesn't just take us off on it. We're not on a roller coaster, basically.
You know, it's a great question you're asking. And I know for me, when I was growing up, it was everything was the outside. I'll believe it when I see it. And when everything changed for me, it was the opposite. It was the outside doesn't matter. It was based on past things that I did, past thinking that I did. And I think it all starts with understanding self-reliance. That's the first step, in my opinion. Great power comes from self-reliance when you take extreme ownership, and nobody's going to believe in you until you believe in you. Now, I've had mentors that I believed in their belief, and it has great power. But I had to do the thinking. I had to do the inside work, the disciplines, building the attitudes, building the understanding. And you said something that I want to emphasize. How do we not let the emotions take over? And our mindset, you want to burn this in your mind. Everyone listening to this, your mindset has to be stronger than your emotion. And when your emotions are stronger than your mindset, you are giving all your power up to the outside. Now, somebody may be sitting there right now thinking, well, what if something's really awesome happening in my outside world? Okay. I want you to be neutral. I want you to celebrate it, but don't get too high or too low. The reason being, if you get too high when something happens, well, 3 weeks from now, if it doesn't happen, you can get that low. And that's how I used to live. I mean, I would get high, low. It was this roller coaster, like you're saying. And it comes to understanding us. You know, our self-identity is crucial to where we're going. It is so crucial to building a world-class life. I love the word world-class. I got really in tune with it, several months ago. And I really got into the understanding of it. But when we're talking about the five senses, we've got to understand, and when we're talking about emotions, we want to understand, first of all, we're a spiritual being living in a physical body. Now, I could tell you this, and if somebody's saying, well, hold on a second, I'm 46. I don't look the same way I did at 26. So my body is keep changing physically. So I love this quote by Buckminster Fuller. He says, 99% of us, all of us, are invisible, but it takes a great deal of awareness to understand that. So we're a spiritual being living in a physical body, and we've been given an intellect. We've been gifted an intellect. So we get to think whatever we want to think. We have been given free will to do that by our Creator. Now, that intellect dictates our emotional state. So if we're not in control of what we're thinking about, if we keep thinking bad thoughts, you said thoughts are things. They're not just things. They're very powerful things. The study on brain plasticity has stated that our thoughts travel faster than the speed of light. Now, what we want to do is get really good at being aware of what we're doing. And in the beginning, it's almost robotic, until it becomes part of your identity, where you've got to give yourself a command that I am not accepting any idea that is not in harmony with how I want to live. And when those ideas come, you have to say reject, and then affirm the opposite. That one tool changed the game for me 15 years ago. That's when it changed. I turned an automatic negative thought into an automatic positive thought. Then I kept doing it for 30 days. I've done it ever since. And too many people are letting their emotions be controlled by the outside, which is it's very dangerous to do. And I'll tell you why. Whatever you get emotionally involved with creates a impression in your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind creates 96 to 98% of all your results, perceptions, and behaviors. Now, you want to get this. We only want to put in our subconscious what we want, and that takes great discipline. That takes an enormous amount of discipline. But discipline is the key to creating a life of freedom. And I believe everybody deserves a life of freedom. I always say freedom is free. It doesn't cost any money, but it takes a great deal of commitment.
I want to talk more about discipline, but first I want to jump into the idea of suspending disbelief, because you're living in a reality, right? And your circumstances may be very real, right? You may be up against some obstacle or some circumstances that are real. How do you suspend disbelief, suspend current reality, and go into your imagination and think about the thoughts of what you want, think from where you want? Can you go through that whole process so that everybody really understands it and can implement it today?
Well, I'll tell you, like for me, you're asking the question, I'm going back to when I was struggling. Mm-hmm. And I'll give you guys a clear picture of where I was. I was $150,000 in debt, just lost my job. And that's when my life changed. And I had been studying personal development, but I wasn't implementing it. My mentor says, you don't know this, you know about it. All I have to do is look at your results. And he said, you're going to have to change for your life to change. And that really connected with me. And I was up against it, but I told myself, and if anybody's up against it, I'll tell you exactly what to do to willingly suspend disbelief, is you're not your past. You're not your results. Your results are a reflection of your behaviors. And what you want to do is tell yourself, like I can't control what happened, but I can control what I do from this day forward. And this is where nothing happens without making a significant decision. And I'm talking about an irrevocable, committed decision where you say, this is what I'm doing no matter what. When you do that, and when you mix commitment is discipline. In my opinion, it's discipline on steroids. And when you mix commitment with decision and discipline, that's how you suspend disbelief. Because it doesn't mean the situation is going to change overnight, but I promise you, when you make that decision, your philosophy changes overnight. And you're going to start thinking based on where you're going when you make that type of decision. And I'm talking about a decision that's not convenient, where your back's against the wall, where you're burning all the bridges like Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich, where you're saying, this is what I'm doing no matter what. Now, this is crucial you get. And when you make that, you put all your energy now on you're building that magnificent future. And that's how it changes. It starts when you have this come to Jesus moment with yourself where you say, come on, there's got to be more to this than what I'm doing. That's what happened to me. And I know if I can do it, anybody can do it.
I'm glad you said it's not going to change overnight because, kids, they will just be relentlessly persistent. And then at some point we lose that. And as adults, we think, oh, I've tried this for 2 days and it didn't work for me. So I guess this whole personal development thing's just not for me. And my life is supposed to be like this. What do we do to gain back that discipline and persistence in not giving up and understanding that you're creating invisible results every single day that are going to manifest here in a few weeks or a few months if you just keep going?
Well, you got to understand, all you have to do is look at the world. Success leaves clues. So the real trailblazers had to understand failing. And I think there's a code to greatness. And the price of greatness is failing and being willing to fail to win. And a lot of people are tiptoeing. They're not coming from their authentic self. They're coming from their ego. So they're thinking, I'm worried about what they're going to think of me. I'm worried about what my results show me. So they think their results are them. They're not their results. That's what I keep saying. See, we have a lower self and a higher self. Our lower self is our ego. Our ego is like this wounded child. And it's constantly scared all the time. And it's trying to prove their identity by what they have, what they do. That's a very short-term process. And I don't encourage anybody to do it. When you get out of your way, detach from your five senses, this is crucial. I want you to literally put your five senses in a lockbox and abandon them. See, our five senses are not for us to make decisions in life. They're for us to enjoy life. They're not for us to create the life we want. See, and we got to understand ourselves. And when I talk about detaching from the five senses, when you're attached to the five senses, you're just running the same program that created the same results. And 95% of our day, Mikey, like today, my day, 95% of it is already automated. Now, what we want to do is understand part of that 95% is good behaviors that you've created. And then there's going to be others that aren't so good. If you want to look at your program and really understand what good behaviors versus bad behaviors you have, I encourage you for 1 week, just track your day for every hour of the day. Just track what you did. And then go next to it at the end of the night and write non-productive activity, productive activity. You're going to see why you're getting the results you're getting. I will tell you, every one of my elite clients, I have them do this first because they'll tell me, I really want to have more in my life, but I don't have the time. And that's the biggest excuse and the biggest fallacy out there. Everyone has the same amount of time. And it's about understanding what are we doing with our time. See, when you're looking, I remember when we're talking about this about letting the outside control the inside, right? I remember I had created a certain level of success in my life at this point. And, my mentor had such an enormous impact on my life. And I came to him one day and I said, I'm stuck. He said, well, why do you think you're stuck? I said, I know why I'm stuck. I keep letting the outside control it. I said, how did you master it? And he said, I'm going to tell you what my mentor taught me. And if you really get this, you're going to get it. And I said, sure, what is it? And he said, anybody can have a great attitude when things are going well. He said, the true professionals in life have an even better attitude when things are not going well. And I stopped in my tracks. When you get that aha moment, like something just hits you. And I said, will you say that again? And he knew I got it. But I didn't just get it. I spent the next 2 years studying attitude because that's what we're talking about here. When we're letting the outside control the inside, we're letting the outside dictate our attitude, our identity of ourselves, what we can and cannot do. It's a losing formula. And when I started taking control of my emotions and not letting the outside discipline my thinking, my ability, my potential, that's when the game changed for me.
Okay. One thing that we're committed to doing on this podcast is giving you an action step every single week. And Arash just gave you a great action step. So I want to make sure that I point it out. For 1 week, keep a journal hour by hour of your activities. And at the end of each day, write down productive activity or non-productive activity next to each one. So you can see where you're being productive versus non-productive. Arash, we talk about putting our five senses away. So we're leaning away from our five senses. And as we do that, we're going to lean into our higher faculties. Will you just briefly go into the higher faculties and how special and important and powerful they are to us building the life we really want?
Yeah. Your higher faculties, a lot of people are probably listening to this. They may not know what we're even talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But our higher faculties are our superpower. You have 6 of them. You have your reasoning. And you got to understand your reason is your ability to think what you want regardless of the circumstances. You have your imagination. Your imagination is the greatest tool that we have been gifted by our creator. And I love this quote by Einstein. He said, knowledge isn't power. Knowledge takes you from A to B. He said, imagination takes you everywhere. And I'll tell you right now how to use your imagination, okay? And you don't want to pick all of these faculties, but you want to pick one that you're going to work on for 30 days and maybe 60 days. But any idea, so let's say I'm letting the outside control me. When I accept that idea, because when we're letting something control us, we accept it internally right away, like within a millisecond. But what you're doing is you're accepting it with your imagination, and your imagination then creates a feeling and creates that subconscious impression. Now, how do we change that? Work on I am statements. And I am happy, exclamation point. You've got to do this fiercely. You say, I am wealthy. I am prosperous. I am abundant. I am successful. And you do it with exclamation, exclamation, exclamation points. And as you do that, now you're using your imagination for you. You know, I am are the 2 most powerful words in the English dictionary. And you want to get those I ams using your imagination. Then we talk about our will. Here's another higher faculty. Your will gives you the ability to hold one idea on the screen of your mind with no interference from anything else on the outside. Now, most people are using their will against them. They're saying they're projecting the future what already exists. So they keep holding that image of what they don't want over and over again, so it keeps showing up in their life. We want you to hold that image of prosperity, of success, of health, of a great marriage, of a great attitude. You hold that idea, one idea at a time, it's going to be a game changer. You know, and there's a law in the universe called the law of perpetual transmutation of energy. And I'm going to dummy it down. It states that any idea, energy is coming into form and out of form. But any idea held with the will long enough has to come into form by law. So if we're holding an idea of what we want all day long, you're using the will, and the will is going to bring it into form. Okay. Then you look at perception. Perception is how you bulletproof your attitude. But most people are using perception against them. And I'm talking about the masses. See, we're not seeing the world as it is. We're seeing it as we are. And I love what Wayne Dyer used to say. He said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. That's perception. So we want to bulletproof our faculty on perception and only see the good in everything. So, you know, you look at some of these that I'm giving you. Memory. Memory is another one. Memory, think about something you achieved that was so amazing. Well, every time you think about that, you're activating your success mechanism. And that's in your subconscious mind. And you could go there at any moment. So now you're putting all the energy towards what you want. So when you start looking at these, and intuition is your connection to everything. It's your sixth sense. So we want to develop our intuition. See, our intuition is connected to our instinct. And our instinct is so much more powerful than the intellect. Yet everyone is saying, well, when this happens, and this happens. That's not how it works. When you go all in, you're opening the space for the good you desire. And now our job is to build the disciplines, build the attitudes, build the decisions, and definitely build the image. And that's how you're going to bring it into your life. These are your superpowers. And if you're listening to this, pick one that connected with you, that you really want to work on. I don't work on the one that's my strength. Like for me, intuition's my greatest strength. It's been that way since I was a kid. So I don't work on it. I trust it. See, and when we trust ourselves, we're trusting the wisdom that created us. So right now, if you are not trusting yourself, I want you to trust yourself with small things. But pick one of the faculties and watch how much it's going to impact your life.
Yeah. It sounds simple, right? Changing your thinking from the outside in to the inside out, but it's not exactly easy to do. So you're going to get off track, right? Until it becomes a habit, you're going to go back and forth. And you have to keep correcting yourself. How do you build momentum so that it becomes a habit? And every time you fall off, don't stay off course, but get right back on course.
Well, here's the beautiful part of this. You don't have to be perfect, but your intent needs to be perfect. So when I say intent, you're putting a lot of energy to getting better. And one of the best things that I ever learned was you don't pursue success. Success is something you attract by the person you become. So I said earlier, you've got to be willing to fail. So to build something new, I love this quote by Robin Sharma. He says, in the beginning, it's hard. In the middle, it's messy. At the end, it's amazing. So think about when we first started learning how to drive a car. In the beginning, you're looking everywhere, okay? In the middle, you're getting a little more comfortable. Now we're driving, you're like, I don't even know how I got home. I'm driving with like 2 fingers, okay? Like, think about that. Or I'll work with people. I was working with a client. He goes, why can't I do this towards money, but towards the gym, it's so easy for me? I said, because that's what you put a priority on. And I said, don't you agree with me that it'd be harder for you not to work out than to work out? He said, yes. I said, it's a habit. I said, money is a habit. You just haven't connected the dots. Ideas are habits. So we want to really start understanding it doesn't matter how hard it is. I hope it's hard, because if it's a little hard, there's only a little good. If it's a lot hard, there's going to be a lot of good, a lot of rewards on it. So my advice is don't neglect your disciplines 2 days in a row. Nobody gets overweight for going to eat bad one day. But what happens is one day turns into 2, turns into 7, turns into the next Monday. The next Monday, I'm going to start changing it. Don't neglect the disciplines. See, when we're talking about not letting the outside control the inside, what we're talking about is disciplining your thinking, not letting your mind discipline it. Your mind is so powerful. It's going to work against you just as much as it's for you, depending on how you condition and rewire it.
Yep. Raj, all of these topics are so closely connected. On the first episode, we talked about standard. Last week, we talked about getting unstuck. This week, we're talking about thinking from the inside out, so the outside in. But you're bringing up attitude. What you were just talking about kind of flows into identity, right? What you believe about yourself to be true and who you are. So how do these all work together? And we're going to get into a new topic every single week, but I'd love for you to talk about how all these work together, and if this is new for somebody, where they should put their focus.
Well, I think, first of all, you have to know what you want first. You have to have a definite want. You want it more than anything else. If you don't, there's no reason to have the attitudes, the disciplines to build the identities. And when you talk about identity, our self-concept is being impacted by everything we're doing every day. Mm-hmm. Like it is everything we do is a vote towards where we're headed. So self-concept isn't something that, it doesn't affect me. It affects all of us. And we can never outperform our identity. So the actions we take, how we speak, do we speak, how you speak, are you speaking like you would speak if you had achieved your goal? That's a great accountability partner right there. Okay. Watch it, because your thoughts create your feelings create your actions create your results. And that right there is attitude, but all of them work together. How we do one thing is how we do everything. So everything is connected. We're connected. And so you don't have to work on all of them, but you want to look at, first off, if somebody's listening to this, Mykie, and they don't know what they want, that's what they've got to figure out. I would put everything aside and I would get out a pen and paper and write in the present tense how they want to live 12 months from now. And let their imagination go. Don't judge it. We've got to get a definite want first, because without a want, nothing moves. Without, you can't even have a goal. And, I'll share a story. I was responding back to somebody who commented to me on Instagram this week. And he says something like, I'm going after being rich or else I die, something like that. And I said, you're already rich. And he says, well, what do you mean? I said, you have everything inside of you. See, but he's not aware he has it. He goes, oh, I know, I'm born rich. I said, no, you've got to understand this. You've got to emotionally connect to this. See, I used to be the same way. I used to think, oh, when I get this, then I'm going to be happy. No, you're going to be happy right now when you start developing yourself. Remember, success is about the person you become. Who do you want to become right now? What are those behaviors? And when you have a definite want, that's going to, when the outside comes out, you're going to catch it. And you're going to say, no, I don't accept it. Now, I said something early on that changed my life. And I have all my clients, and I'll say it every week if it's going to impact people. Because I'm telling you, this is the difference. You have to master accepting what you want and rejecting any idea that is not in harmony. You say no. And you don't just say no, you say a hard no. Like, this is your life. You can't screw around with it. And screwing around and saying, tomorrow I'm going to do this, or next week I'm going to do this, is a dumb idea, because you don't know how much it creates momentum the wrong direction.
I love it. I can feel your passion coming through the screen, and you are just fired up, and it's so good. I heard 3 action steps, and I'm going to reiterate each one and then let you have a final word as we wrap up this podcast episode. So number 1 is keep a journal for 1 week of your activities hour by hour. At the end of each day, write down productive or non-productive activities so you can get an inventory of what is and is not productive that you're doing. Next is pick one of the higher faculties and work on them for 30 or 60 days. Higher faculties are the reason, will, imagination, intuition, memory, and which one am I forgetting? Perception. Last one is get crystal clear on what you want and write it down on paper. Arash, any final action steps before we wrap up this episode?
Work so hard on working on yourself. The only way your life is going to get better is you get better. And when you fall more in love with yourself and build your identity, not from arrogance, not from ego, but from who you really are, you will see magic start showing up in your life. Get detached from the 5 senses and think only what you want. I'll trigger something for everyone. Every day, several times a day, ask yourself, an hour after I achieve my big goal, how does it feel? And then you hold that feeling with your will. You hold it, and then ask yourself, what were the behaviors? Like, who did I become during that time? And then you become that right now. Say, I went out of my comfort zone a lot. I built great discipline. I surrounded myself with A+ performers. And then you start doing that all day long.
All right. Thanks so much, Arash. That's a wrap on episode 3. This podcast is something that Arash and I have talked about doing and wanted to do for a long time. If you're enjoying it, if you would share it and leave us a review and rating, we would really appreciate it. It would just help us reach more people with our podcast and help us achieve our mission, which is helping more people live a life of freedom. So thank you all so much, and we'll see you next week on 7 Figure Standard.
Thank you for listening to this episode of 7 Figure Standard. We hope you found the insights and strategies helpful on your journey to success. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform to help us reach more people like you. To learn more about Arash and Mykie and how Voss Coach & Co. can help you achieve your goals and reach new levels of success, visit vosscoachandco.com. Thank you again for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of 7 Figure Standard.